Today, a member of our community will share her experience with us and how unity has affected her life. Please welcome to the podium Susan McClure, our multi-talented secretary of the board.
Hello. I'm going to read most of this because I've been told in no uncertain terms not to go over 5 to 7 minutes. So we've all on the board have been asked to talk about how unity principles worked in our life. I began on a spiritual path in 1986 at age 34. I was raised in the Church of the Brethren, and in my teens left the church and continued in the next 20 years professing that I was an atheist. At 34, I had a spiritual experience and a radical change in my behavior and life for the better. And I continued on a spiritual but not religious path. Later in my 50s, I started applying Principle 4 in my life without knowing it was your Principle 4. Principle 4 is through prayer and meditation, we align our heart, mind with God. Release and affirmations are the tools we use. I started trying to meditate. I used affirmations and releasing to manifest in the 2 areas of my life that were most important to me. I let go of many limiting beliefs and was able to experience over time, after years of practicing this principle, number 1, a loving and harmonious relationship with my 3rd husband, to whom I have now been married for over 30 years, and 2, financial abundance in my small business, which I sold and retired from after 28 years in 2021. So Principle 4 worked really well for me in these areas. But I did not experience the peace and happiness that I had been promised at all times. I suffered from the after effects of severe childhood trauma. I experienced PTSD, anxiety, and depression. I was disturbed by people, places, and things on a regular basis. So more work was needed. That's when Principle 1, unbidden, started to percolate into my awareness. Principle 1 is there is only one presence and one power active in the universe and in my life, God. In 1987, I wrote in an ACOA writing workshop that all the major decisions in my life had been made by somebody else. I didn't understand the significance of that at the time. In 2016, after coming home from a Sedona Method retreat, I reviewed my life and noticed that all the major events had not been done by me. They had just happened. Again, I was not able to put this into practice. I semi-retired that year and went about doing the things I thought I should do. I deepened my meditation practice. I took meetings monthly to the women's jail. I mentored more women. In 2017, I noticed that my brain function had severely deteriorated from a traumatic brain injury I had in 2001. I couldn't remember how to start my car. My husband reported that my short-term memory was non-existent. I had horrible aphasia. I used affirmations and releasing to set about restoring my brain function without the use of medication. Now here, my favorite of the 12 powers is faith. Faith was my support. Even though no observable progress was made in the first year, with the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth things that were done on the advice of my MD, I continued in faith, and over the second year, full function was returned. And my brain function tests now show me scoring better than 82% of the people my age. But the peace and happiness still eluded me. Then in 2021, when I completely retired, I decided to put Principle 4 and Principle 1 together. I was going to live in the present moment. The quote from John in the Bible, "Of myself I am nothing, the Father doeth the works." I knew looking back on my life in 1987 and 2016 that I was not the doer, God was the doer. So instead of acting like I was the doer and figuring out something to do with my life, I was going to wait for God to do. I formulated an affirmation. I trust that stillness will do as needed, and released everything that came up in opposition to that and tried to rest in faith. When I started to lose faith as 3 months and 6 months went by and nothing was happening, I would return to my affirmation and rest in faith. Then late fall of 2001, a voice in my head kept repeating, "You ought to go to Unity. You ought to go to Unity." Well, I had not been to church in 50 years. So I thought that statement was somewhat unusual, a sign that it was divine guidance and not my thinking mind at work. So I began to practice Principle 5, get into action. Principle 5 is through thought, words, and actions, we live the truth we know. I went to Unity, joined, did was suggested, to volunteer and financially contribute, and for about 2 years, no observable progress was made. I was still disturbed by people, places, and things, maybe even more before because all my religious trauma was activated. And this is where faith comes in again. Again, I trusted that stillness is doing as needed. I don't need to understand the when or the how. Eventually, after several years, there was an opening, and I joined the Spiritual Explorers Spirit Group book discussion. There I learned from Pema Chodron and How You Live is How You Die, Mary O'Malley and What's in the Way is the Way, and Michael Singer and The Untethered Soul, that the stored pain that was causing my disturbances, the old energies that I was unable to process at the time, that only hurts for a moment and then it's over. From Mary O'Malley, I discovered if we discover how to be with the pain rather than feel it, we won't get lost in it, and healing will happen. This is the information, along with the simple practices these books taught, that I needed to progress on my spiritual path toward the peace and happiness that had eluded me. I am now filled with faith that my later years will move slowly but surely toward peace, happiness, and love, regardless of my circumstances. I am very grateful to Unity and to my fellow spiritual explorers. It's so much more fun when you're on the path with other fellow travelers.